my little.
You need Darren's gas.
It's 5 o'clock. All right, I'd like to call the Scott County Board of Adjustment meeting on April 6, 2023, at 5 o'clock to order. First order of business I'd like to address is application S 2023-09, a part-time paragliding instruction at 2778 Weisenberger Mill Road. I understand a lot of people are here for that. We have actually had a change in that application, so the information that has been passed out has changed. Due to that, and also the fact that we know it's a lot of people here are concerned about it, and we are short on a full board, we are going to postpone that till next month. If you have signed in and put your email address down, that's great. If you haven't, we want you to leave your email address. Staff will, it's be over here, staff will be sending you the new information of the changes.
I guess, is it new information that's been provided by the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, is it changing the application?
Yes.
And can we get any?
It's a significant change, yes.
When you put your email down, I'll send out the information.
But I guess just quickly, it goes from motors being involved to no motors being involved. So yeah, it's pretty significant. But just sign in and you'll get a copy of the modified report based on the information.
And is that going to come before the board the next hearing?
It will be next month,
Yeah,
yes.
next month.
Thank you.
We just feel it's worth everyone having all the new information.
But unfortunately,
So now they still want to stay?
We did it come up.
Charlie, do I just move forward now or wait for everybody to wonder?
Yeah, I think just go ahead and call the next one. I mean,
Okay.
shouldn't be making a market choices.
Okay. All right, we will continue with the meeting, please. First order of business, we have an approval of the March 2nd, 2023 minutes.
thank you all.
If everyone has had a chance to look those over, I will take a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
As soon as we do the sign in.
All right, email address down.
Up there,
Go ahead and prove it, then I'll move to the next one.
Okay, I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Motion's approved. If you are here for another one of the applications and you intend to speak, please make sure you've signed in. Charlie, can you swear those in?
Yes, ma'am. Everyone signed in to speak tonight. If you can please stand, raise your right hand. Oh, that looks a whole lot better than this. You swear affirm the statement you're about to make to be the truth, to the best of your information and belief. I do. Thank you.
Can you take the sign-in sheet over there real quick? Can you herd them that way or somewhere?
I'm going to be moving the sign-in sheet. We have to continue with this meeting. I'm going to put it in that room over there. You guys can all direct over there and also hold your conversations outside of this room. We are trying to have a quality recording for all other applications. They deserve to be held heard, so everybody out that way. Follow me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Lise. Are we ready?
Yeah. If you guys are going to continue for the first half here, please be considerate of other applications before the board today.
All right. All right, we'll continue. We have one old application, S 2023-03. Elise?
That one's postponed.
It's walked
This
off.
Saban Drive has postponed again?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, they still work, have an agreement apparently, but he couldn't be here for some reason.
fire, some firefighter,
24
something,
hours
yeah.
later, something, and could not get off work.
Stupid thing. I'm looking for my clicker. Oh, it's right there.
You mean this?
Sorry, guys.
My little clicker.
This isn't normal.
It's never normal.
Okay.
Just gonna make laps around this room. It's fine. So our application, first one tonight is S-2023-08, conditional use permit for secondary and then also a tertiary residence for farm workers located at the property address 4534 Ironworks Road with direct access off of Ironworks Road, south of the Hidden Creek Drive and Hidden Creek Estates and north of Swords Road. It's an A1 zone property with approximately 16.22 acres. Staff recommends approval of the request. This is an aerial of the property here. It's a farm and DAG zone and all that stuff. I don't know why. This is kind of the zoomed in portion of the property. I just want to reiterate that this is north is down for the television for anyone who's kind of observing. So they're interested in having a secondary and then also tertiary residence. They're having farm workers kind of return to the property. There's, after kind of review of records and everything, we found that there's never really been a conditional use permit for a secondary and also tertiary one, but there was a previously constructed above barn apartment and then a mobile home located on the property as well as the principal residence. So they're just trying to kind of legitimize everything and move in the right direction. The barn and everything is of appropriate location and everything like that, and it does have the acreage for both residences. I just want to call the attention the mobile home. At the time of writing the staff report, we were aware of that the mobile home was, and there were kind of concerns that the mobile home was in pretty poor shape. If you look at aerial imagery, it's been there for a good long time. So we just were really kind of concerned on the quality of that construction and the shape. And if you look at aerial footage, it just didn't really look like it was in great shape. The applicant kind of reached out to it and told us that he was interested and had removed the mobile home. And has two possible locations, one of which he will pick, one of which is obviously not going to be picked, where the mobile home would be placed. Both of them seem to be an appropriate distance from the property lines, and we would still require them to be 50 feet from all property lines in accordance with the regulations for the zoning district. And that's the main thing there. So it is kind of discussed in detail there, and there's a condition related to that as well. My findings are that it would not negatively impact public health, safety, or welfare, and it would meet the density requirements if the application is approved. I'd like to note that upon execution of the second and third dwelling credits that would be made available as part of this permit, it would be of insufficient size to allow for a fourth or any additional residences. So if something came down the line and they needed more work, they'd have to find somewhere else to put them because unfortunately our density requirements and the size of the property cannot allow for an additional residence beyond the 3. Staff recommends approval. There's 7 conditions. The first 5 are on this page. They get dwelling addresses, they adhere to our regs, they adhere to state regs. It becomes nullified on transfer and sale, and if there's any changes in approved conditions, they return to us. The 6th and 7th are to be appropriate distances from existing structures so as to not require variances. And the 7th is it just kind of relates mostly to that condition or poor condition manufactured home. Since they've removed it, it kind of nixes itself, but if they go to building permitting or another thing and they determine that those are of insufficient shape, they may be requiring for it. You can also determine whether or not it should be something that should be removed since then. I did include it on here just as kind of a point of note, but again, up to your guys' discretion, we can see about removing that condition. Besides that, the applicant is here if you have any questions related to the operation. So that's the area there. Nothing for you?
Any questions, Joe?
Not yet. Have you had any concerns or phone calls or anything on
The
this?
main thing was just the mobile home. So that
Okay.
was staff.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would you like to speak?
We bought the farm last May, so we were just trying to kind of bring things up. We already removed the mobile home. It was destroyed 2 weeks ago after, and we don't plan to put anything there immediately. We want to focus on the apartment, getting that renovated first, and then have the ability to add the secondary in the future, but we just wanna make sure we're current. That's our biggest thing. We assumed we bought it that everything was legal, and of course, that's not how things usually go, so.
No.
That was really our goal in anything.
And which one are you?
I'm Kyle, I'm sorry, Kyle Rothfuss, I should have,
Very good.
yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions? Well, I guess I can entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve application number S-2023-08 for the conditional use permit on 4534 Ironworks Road with the 7 conditions of approval.
This is 07, isn't it? Nope. Oh, nope. It's 08.
It's 08, one I'm looking at, it's 08.
Second.
One said, okay, one sheet said 07. I was just, all right.
Oh, that was got 07, yeah.
You seconded it?
Second, yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved?
Thank you.
Yep, I'll send I will not be in Friday, but I'll send you the thing on Monday, so you can all get it done.
Yeah, I was reading all
Because
that
I
one.
figured as much, some people are very urgent, I'm like,
No,
I
we've
am
had,
not doing
the
it.
number of projects thus
Yeah.
far have been between fencing and driveway grading, and we have some time.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and of course, application S 2023-09 has just been postponed to next month, so the next application, S 2023-10.
Thanks. So, as you stated, this is SF 2023-10, a conditional use permit for a home occupation to operate a shop related to kind of the restoration of classic vehicles located at 4957 Muddy Ford Road. It is an A1 zone parcel, approximately 10.34 acres, located on Muddy Ford Road, north of Cynthiana, south of Anderson. And like, this is very limited kind of reference, but yeah, there's a lot of land between that and Cynthiana and Anderson. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit. So this is an aerial of the property. North is to the left when you're facing it. So just kind of keep an eye on that one. I meant to put an arrow, missed the arrow. Always something on PowerPoints. So it's kind of narrow, and then it has kind of that widened area in the rear of the property. When we're looking at the zoning ordinance, we refer to section 4.12, which lists item G as a home occupation which exceed the limitations of the definition of such as a conditional use. When we're reviewing them, we look to minimize the impacts on neighboring properties by requiring it be incidental to the primary residential use, have no exterior evidence, and not generate atmospheric pollution, light flashes, glare, odor, noise, vibration, truck or other heavy traffic. While this application in part does not meet this requirement, such as operating within the residential structure, we have in the past reviewed items such as before we put the commercial landscape ordinance through, or we're working on that one. That was considered oftentimes within a home occupation, as well as Triple J Farms in their new farm stand edition. And there's also another farm stand edition off of Sims that we previously reviewed, and they did not have or were operating outside of the principal residence. So the applicant states in his information that he's been operating since 2014, and he's interested in acquiring a property that would have a building that we would then restore to do car restoration. He expects pickup of delivery service and 4 staff on property during kind of any given time, and that it would kind of be concentrated around that area. They're expected to have a kind of typical business schedule, and if approved, staff would recommend outlining hours of operation to be no earlier than 8 a.m. and no later than 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, just to allow for people to enjoy their Sundays and their evenings without a lot of impact of the development. Obviously, they can kind of, maybe they're there on Monday but not on Tuesday, but they would be able to kind of operate within those hours. Traffic would, with anything that happens on the property, if you have a lot of kids, if you have 2 houses, traffic's going to increase just a little bit. But as part of the business operation, staff does not believe it will create a significant hazard, since they have that pickup delivery service that kind of reduces those unfamiliar from being on the property or driving in low-quality vehicles that need repairs. Rather, they'll be delivering items to the property and then kind of removing them from the property, and that it would be expected that delivery and pickup would be done by staff of theirs, so that they would be getting pretty familiar with the road. We do understand the road has, especially that S-curve around, I don't know, maybe a half a mile south of here, and that type of thing. I don't know what half a mile looks I'll guess. So they do have that S curve on the road, and it is a narrow road with the double whites on the side as opposed to a split double lane or 2-lane opposing direction road. But, I mean, most of the roads in the county are like that. And so it's not uncommon for people to face that issue and be able to successfully operate business with limited impacts on traffic in that type of deal. There's a lot of kind of nature and stuff on the property. So this is a more zoomed in item. This is taken in the not very rich foliage time of year. So I don't know why I called it that. But the winter is usually when these photos are taken. So there are some trees in Muddy Ford, and a lot of the undeveloped parts of the county are pretty hilly. And so there's kind of some natural terrain and vegetation screening that we would expect to kind of have in the area. In light of that, and just in consideration of a time period where there's not a lot of leaves on the trees or trees get sick and die, staff recommends including a condition that they install an opaque fence at least 6 feet in height to around the structure and any yard space used as part of the business operation. This would kind of contain some of the smell, some of the light, and maybe some of the noise from the operation to ensure that it's not causing kind of bright flashes into other people's properties, interrupting their kind of quality of life. I think that it offers some kind of visual screening, and again, just can be a benefit to have a defined area where we are expecting this operation to be, and then outside of that area, we're not seeing a lot of evidence visually of that property. We would request that it be installed prior to business operation, and I've included that as part of condition 6 on the staff report. Generally speaking, though, we believe that staff concludes that this application would impact public health, safety, or welfare, and would alter the character, but is not to a level where it would be a significant detraction from the quality of life of the resident and those surrounding. Given the conditions for hours of operation and the condition of buffering, staff believes that it can reasonably fit into the character of the surrounding area. Again, I do always state that any change, any kind of increased activity will impact something on somewhere. Will impact safety, it'll impact traffic. So it's just how do we reasonably apply these conditions, and again, applying that buffering condition and the hours of operation are believed to not detract or kind of allow it to integrate more fully. Staff also finds no evidence that they're trying to circumnavigate regulations or other rules. These are my 3 findings. So they're saying that it's going to operate at the existing structure. They have small staff and low impact, and are not expected to negatively impact public health, safety, or welfare. Subsequently, staff recommends a condition of approval, staff recommends approval with 6 conditions. The first 4 are on this page, consistent with the previous application. Condition 5, that it restricts the hours of operation. It's any facet of business. So if you're out there just shining something, you're not shining it late into the night, like you're sticking around. And the applicant shall install a 6-foot tall opaque buffer around the structure and yard where it's expected to occur. It needs to be installed prior to the business operations and be kept in good repair while it's on site. Besides that, that's all kind of staff pulls from this item. I can hear some comments behind me with some dissenting opinions, so I will obviously have some conversation further, but unless there's anything from you.
Do you have anything for Lisa at the moment?
Not right now.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Is the applicant here? Would you like to speak? Is there anything you want to add at the moment, or would you? Okay. Is anyone else here would like to speak toward this application? Step up, sir. Someone, ma'am?
This is an agricultural area. A business does not fit in down there. Furthermore, from what I'm understanding from staff, there's going to be a wrecker service coming and going, which certainly doesn't fit. I know this isn't a popular opinion, and I'm sorry, but I bought a place in the country to be in the country. That's not a place for a business. Furthermore, if we're going to do automotive restoration, what about the smell? We're going to be painting. What about a paint booth? Do we have a paint booth there? Any of these things?
Yeah, I got a full shop up in Weston.
I'm talking about there.
Yeah, if approved, it will all be compliant with any kind of rule that's necessary.
It doesn't fit in. I don't want it, and it doesn't need to be there.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Hi, we're supposed to identify ourselves. My name is Virginia Teague. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I moved to Muddy Ford in 1992, so we're talking about 30 years. I don't know whether or not you've been down Muddy Ford, but it's a state road. It kind of, I know it meets the minimum width dimensions, but we don't even have a white line, and it's just barely 2 lanes, you know. And 4957 is just past that very wicked downhill S-curve. And I've been run off that road, and I think everybody else who lives down there has been run off that road at least once by all the people who can't seem to know where their wheels are, so they kind of drive in the middle of the road. And it's even worse on that S-curve. Now, I don't have a problem with someone restoring classic cars. I just don't think it should be in an ag zone. And here's why. Restoring is only the first step. Testing the mechanical work comes next. There's an incredible noise issue with engines, with anything having to do with grinding of metal. There's the paint issue, and I have a concern with that, with the hazardous particulates that are going to be generated by paintwork with sanding and the painting. And the mechanical is noisy, and my second one, that leads me to the second one, the mechanical work has to be tested. And that means at varying speeds, out on the road, a dangerous road. Classic cars, and I love, if I can be corrected if I'm wrong here. Classic cars are not Model Ts. Model Ts are antiques. Classic cars, they're likely talking like Camaros, Mustangs, Corvettes, etc. And what if they install glass packs? Those things are going to disturb every kind of animal that lives out in that ag zone. Upset horses, cattle, whatever. And you know, if it is the type of car I mentioned, you know, they'll have to test it on that road because it's that type of car, and they're going to want to test it on that S-curve. Test the handling. So, you know, we already have a lot of drivers on that road right in the middle of the road. And so my problem is threefold: hazardous particulates, noise, and testing on that road. Safety issues. And then I have a question. Right now, there's a significant number of piles of dirt that are lined up right next to that creek. And we'd like to know what the intent of that is, because if that gets dumped, it's going to dam up the creek.
I don't think that has anything to do with this application, Charlie.
Well, I don't know if it does or not.
I don't, it's just a question. That
Well,
was the
I
question.
understand, but I'm just answering her question.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not illegal to have dirt.
you've been doing contouring of your land and everything,
Oh,
correct?
there's nothing wrong with the piles. I have the slightest problem with the piles. I just didn't know whether or not they were going to get,
No, you're
what
not
it was gonna
intending
do,
to put
having
them in the
anything to do
water,
with the
are
creek.
you? Okay, all right.
so I just don't think it should be in an ag zone.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand.
I'm just gonna say something just in kind of an agreement,
Okay.
sort with her. Floodplain management is a big deal in Scott County.
Right.
We're proud of our ordinances. There's explicit within the regulation that you are not to be filling within floodplain or any item like that. We've gone after people, we're going after people right now for being in violation and filling items. So if it is evidence found that's altering the floodplain in any way, whether you're digging away at it or you're adding to it, it's a no-go. So if there's floodplain on that property, it's just county ordinance. So if something happens and it does get into that area and there is a violation found, it's a thing with Ben, certified floodplain manager for the state, for the city and for the county. So if anything is happening related to that on this property or any other property, it's well within our powers of planning commission and the regulations under floodplain management
Right.
that we can essentially stop people.
And I bought 10 loads of dirt.
Yeah, I didn't see any,
No,
I didn't,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
calling you out on it, I'm just saying if it does end up in there and
Yeah.
if people are having.
Yeah,
issues
we'll
with
address it, yeah.
Floodplain is something.
Is anyone
that-
else here to speak? No?
I didn't sign in, but is it okay for me to speak?
Oh, no, we can't prove who you are. Do you swear or affirm?
I swear.
Thank you.
All my other
I'm Earlene Arnett, and I live at 5005 Muddy Ford Road. So I think there's only one property, maybe between us. And so my concern is, you know, like these others, I moved to the country to be in the country. And I feel there's a place for industry. I'm a native here. I've seen it grow. But I thought I moved someplace where I wouldn't have industry in my backyard almost. And Janet, I think you know the location. So you know that by the time you reach the S-curve, it is hills, rock, and trees. And we would like to keep it that way. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Can I raise my hand?
I've got a limit, but all right, maybe one more. You solemnly swear. Thank you, Grace.
Yeah. He comes-
What if I can't prove who you are either? I certainly wouldn't listen to Greg to figure it out.
You know, we're all about.
Can you state your name,
Grace
please?
Plunkett.
State your name.
We're all about, you know, business, because, you know, you need to make your living. But we're retired age, so the business hours would be great somewhere else, but like, we're all retired, so the business hours are when we're home. So that, you know, that doesn't mean anything to us, except that during our day, when we're retired, trying to enjoy our peace and tranquility, it's not gonna be. My other issue is with the road. We've already had wrecks on that S-curve, because it really is treacherous. They're not, I mean, it really is. It's really deep and steep and, you know, curvy. But there's school buses that travel up and down there also. So we're gonna have, you know, maybe like a tow truck or whatever would be carting the classic car on the same roads with the school buses and during the business hours, which is when they come too. I just kind of,
What was your name?
Grace Plunkett. That's,
Thank you. Does anyone else here would like to speak? How many cars are you expecting to move through this? I mean, like when you, a different car every day, or one for a month, or?
Let him come to the podium.
Can you step up?
If you don't mind, just address some of the
Yeah,
concerns
yeah.
that they've had.
I'm James Harrington. I mean, there's all kinds of ruckus out there. You pass tractors on the country road, so I don't know.
What
Everybody's got
about
their
the
opinion.
wreckers? Are you planning on having?
If a car is wrecked, I mean, it has to have a record to get there, yeah.
But I mean, how often do you think you'll be moving cars in and out? That's what I was just wondering.
Maybe a couple small jobs a week, and then I restore a car, like a big job a month. So,
Okay. Charlie? We've had other, obviously, occupations put out in agriculture areas all the time.
I mean,
What are
right
your
up the
feelings
street
about
from me, there's some type of big construction deal with rocks and everything else. I mean, you hear it all hours of the night out there. It's 2 properties away from me. I don't understand what the big deal is. As far as being in compliant with the EPA or anything, I got a paint booth and I dispose of all the chemicals through a company that's, you know, they come out and take the barrels, so.
Does anybody know what this rock thing is a couple doors down,
I don't know which way it's from. Which way?
Going back towards 62.
back toward 62?
A couple of he's breaking rocks, he builds rocks fence. He builds rocks.
You got rock breakers and stuff like
Oh,
that. Big trucks of rocks coming in and out up the road, you know.
That's the master craftsman, the dry stone working, that's,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
yeah, he owns that property, but he doesn't do it.
Then the farm across the street from them, they got great big machinery they pull in and out.
Yeah, I
you
live
know.
across from a farm, and it's like
Yeah.
tractors and,
Yeah.
yeah, all the wagons all day. We know a dog goes off, there's another tractor. Anybody else
Now,
have any
your
questions,
hours,
input?
you're gonna stop hours of operation, you're planning to at 5?
You'd be able to do
5
that?
p.m.?
Yeah, and people, I don't want people out of my house after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you know what I mean? As far as noise, I'm in the garage working, so.
How much noise is actually
Right,
generated in
exactly,
something
how
like?
much noise is it?
No, I mean,
DA?
seriously, I mean,
No, it's like woodworking tools, but it's on metal.
yeah, okay. Hydraulics and all that, synchronized?
No, not really, I don't get into that stuff.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Charlie, do you have any input?
Well, you were asking me a question a moment ago. We
Yes,
didn't get
yes.
around to me figuring out all the question and then answering any of it. So why don't you give me the question again?
I was just asking, I mean, I know they understand from agriculture, but we're always approving conditional use. That's what we do. So do you see anything outside of this business that would be different than the other ones that we've approved?
Wasn't there already a church on that property that had a conditional uses permit before?
It did in 96, or 98,
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
and then ownership transferred a couple of times.
And what was that?
It was a church operation,
Oh, okay.
approved in 98 out of, I don't know if it was the existing buildings or the previous.
It was. We took that church building and just turned it into a garage.
I believe that the exceptions on that church building approval had to do with specific noise things that had to be built because of the problem that was going to be noise. I don't remember how that read. And can I ask you a question? Are your business hours, that's what's open to the public, or that's when you go to work?
That's probably just not work. It's more of a phone thing. I mean, I also have a shop in Lexington too. So this is more for my bigger jobs that I don't want to go to Lexington to work on all the time.
Charlie, just,
He's getting ready to say.
But I'll just keep talking. I'll just keep thinking. We're good. Go
He's
ahead.
starting to answer.
this is a Janet time, so you know.
Yeah, listen, when it's a Janet time, I shut the you-know-what up. So go right ahead.
Can this be policed? I mean, if, just a what-if situation. If this is approved, and I know we've got to go by the regs and all that. So if there is concerns that he's not adhering to what the regs are and the guidelines he's being given, and neighbors complain, can the office or somebody
Well, they
check
always have
into it?
recourse, don't
Well,
they, if you don't meet the conditions?
The simple answer to that is yes, certainly. The problem with that is enforcement really depends on neighbors to call in. In a situation like this, enforcement is where if the use is approved, it's just starting, well, that's the best situation for our enforcement. As some can tell us who are here, once things get underway, and they've been underway, particularly after they've been allowed to expand a time or two, it's just almost impossible to do serious enforcement because they're already there. Quite specifically, if he goes in down there and they're just blowing up the neighborhood and trucks racing, testing equipment or whatever, all of that stuff, he would be notified, come back in, we'd have a hearing, and the only recourse we'd have, unless we could add some restrictions or something, which you may or may not feel comfortable doing, would be to revoke the conditional use permit. At that point, he's got all his stuff, and he's gonna have to move it all back to Lexington. Now, as I said, when conditional uses are new, that's not difficult. The first question is, can we make additional conditions so that doesn't create a problem? And if not, I mean, that's what the statute calls for. There are things that with conditions can exist along with the neighborhood and not cause problems. If it can't with conditions, then you either say no up front or you revoke it if in fact, upon review, it appears that just simply can't be done. It's really these things are allowed to then kind of grow and whatnot. And we've had a couple that have grown out of control. Most of them have not. Most of them have gotten some letters of enforcement and they've actually calmed it down and they've kind of gotten along. Most of them. But that's how we stop them early on, how it's not so easy later on. But at any time, things are done which appear to be in violation, appear to be excessive from what was described and what was applied for, yes, they can be notified, we can have a hearing, and literally we can revoke the permit.
Okay. So staff has given her a recommendation based on making it doable and recommended approval.
I have a question. If, I believe the planner mentioned that if.
Can you step up?
Yes, ma'am.
believe it was mentioned that conditional use should fit in with the environment that's there.
Yes.
Well, we put
So I can-
conditions on it to make it fit in. That is what staff is attempting to
Okay,
do.
so I don't know how that ever fits in to an agricultural, residential area. And just recently, you approved more homes right off the S-curve. So that's saying, let's be residential. Now we're saying, let's be industry.
Would you want a body shop behind your house?
I do have a body shop behind my house. I live next to one of the car dealerships in Lexington, and I hear them never. But that's also because I don't go outside. So it's a different story. I don't have a yard to go into. I live in an apartment.
There's a very good point there.
But yeah, if I went outside and did things, maybe it would be different. I don't know.
Thank you, that's very good.
My other item related to that is just discussing the subdivision that was mentioned. It's the Annenheiser property off of, right at the S-curve there. They had one lot or two lots, and then they were kind of restructured the lot layout. It made a net increase, I believe, one lot, but it kind of restructured it, and we, as part of their conditions, required a movement of their entrance to, while it is on the S-curve and it is not a great area for it, there's not a lot of good visibility. And I will not doubt that. I drove that route today, and it was better than I expected, but I was also, I mean, it was just really good light conditions, so I can't really complain.
I live on
But
the road,
anyway,
you know why.
unrelated to that, so they've got a new improved entrance location, but it is just the net increase
Okay.
of one lot. Related to our conditions here, staff believes that like tinkering on a vehicle kind of is similar in part to, and this is not apples to apples, this is kind of apples to papayas or something, where they're both fruits, but they're not that similar. The tinkering or like work on a truck can be seen as similar to work on a tractor, which is a common farm use equipment and otherwise. I know that they're not as similar, and tractors tend not to break down as often, and they're not really a business, you're just plowing the properties, but staff kind of viewed it as a way that could integrate if you kind of have a open discussion and an open perspective. So, I know it took me a really long time to get to that, and I apologize for
Thank you.
all of that, but I just wanted to.
Is there any more questions for Lisa or any of the applicants, or anyone else have anything else to say? I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'm just, like Charlie's input a little bit more.
Okay, Charlie?
Guidance on this. This one's kind of a toughie. I know.
It is
staff
a little
has-
bit farther than the norm, because there is more noise. It seems like there's a potential for more noise. So how will we address it?
Let me try to paraphrase the ordinance. I don't have it.
Okay.
Well, actually, I might have, because I had a similar write-up. Oh, gosh, I better took it out because that one got withdrawn, so I may not have it with me. Let me see. Basically, the definition in both the ordinance and in the state statute is a use that is otherwise beneficial or even essential to the community, which, while not permitted in a particular zone, and this is not permitted in an ag zone, but which would add to the community if conditions and whatnot can keep it from having some sort of adverse impact. Obviously, if this generates a lot of traffic, that's going to have an adverse impact, and I'm not sure there's much condition we could put on that. If it is one thing at a time, and it's not kind of like a retail shop, maybe that's not a problem. I don't know what the volume of business, the fellow's got, and maybe that's something you need to look into. I don't know. If there's going to be a lot of, and I forget what those things are called, the real loud pneumatic drills and wrenches.
Most stuff nowadays run on batteries.
Well, that's what I would guess, but I certainly don't know. But the old stuff, the pneumatic stuff, was grotesque. I mean, you could hear it forever. Well, if that was the kind of thing going on, then unless you could shield the neighborhood from the sound, then it may not be appropriate. If it's all battery operated and doesn't carry on like that, well, then maybe that's not a concern either. But you just need to look at the concerns, and if they adversely impact basically everyone else's enjoyment, then no, you don't put it there. If it can be beneficial, obviously new business and use of property and all that's beneficial, but unless it can be without adversely impacting the enjoyment of everybody else that's already there, or everybody who will be coming, and you can't condition against that, then it's not, probably not appropriate.
Okay, that answer your question, Jenny?
No, not really. I guess, do you have any more input to,
What's different than working on your farm and than me working in my garage? I really don't understand that part
I
of it.
guess one of their concerns is you're not gonna have the shop open after 5 PM.
I don't work over 5 very often.
And it's not constant noise.
And it's not and I got my building spray foam insulated. I mean, if I shut the door, you can't even hardly hear nothing.
Yeah.
I'm up there every morning, my radio's blasting, working out, and nobody complains. Like,
Because I know tractors get worked on in barns and,
or different, us riding our dirt bikes all over the property all the time. I mean, that's louder than anything I'm doing in that shop.
So basically, the only extra traffic that would be involved would be like picking up and, a
Most of the
car,
time, and I plan
bringing
on
it to
keeping
you.
my shop in Lexington. This is more for the bigger jobs that take up a lot of space. I don't want to have tore up in the shop that I'm running a lot of cars through. I'm in the middle of 400,000 drivers up there. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to move
Yeah.
all my business out there in the middle of Muddy Ford.
yeah, people aren't gonna be going out there
I'm
just
not-
for a quick
yeah.
whatever.
So your current business will continue, this
Yes.
will be a satellite?
Yeah,
This
that's
is-
a
yes,
huge
exactly.
difference there. This is just almost like a hockey shop.
My dad lives on Muddy Ford.
Your dad?
Works on cars all the time.
Your dad does? Oh, her dad lives on Muddy Ford. He works on cars, she says. All right.
You can't hear anything outside the shop.
Okay. All right, well, would you like to make a motion?
I move that we approve application S 2023-10, the conditional use permit at 4957 Muddy Ford Road, with staff conditions.
I'll say.
I'm sorry.
Motion's been made to
Janet.
approve. There's a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved.
What's the conditions?
Staff will get with you.
If you report to myself, or you can report to Joanna.
If any of the conditions aren't being met, they will make a phone call.
I mean, if you want to appeal it, you need to file an appeal with Scott County Circuit Court within 30 days. If you are interested in reporting any zoning violations or violations of these things, I'm not gonna say that you will, but if you see that there's a violation of conditions, report it to Joe, myself, or my staff.
All right.
Yep, we leave the option open for any other issue that comes up. We try to at least inform the decision as possible, but sometimes we're not always.
Pass that down.
She'll be getting with you and going through any other further things that need to happen. I'm sorry. Good luck. Good luck.
Yes, I could tell this entire time.
Why do I have two?
I don't understand how we help our community in any way possible. None of us have classic cars, none of us want them. But it does affect our cattle, it does affect our horses. And we're agriculture, we're not industry.
Smell in the refrigerator. My husband has worked on cars. You have to have a hammer beat the
Do we have anything else?
Yeah, we have to do the election.
You can also request a postpone that for the board.
Okay.
Yeah. Chair, yeah, so. We'll go ahead and postpone the elections till we have a full quorum next month.
So we have to wait for it to disrupt our lives.
Motion adjourned. Meeting adjourned then? Is that everything?